Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the passive voice. Now, for those of you who know me, you know that I don't really like the idea of you learning grammar rules. I really would prefer if you just jumped in and used the grammar. Some people study the rules and don't use it, and the people who are more successful are the people who use it but perhaps don't even know what it's called. It's possible that you already know the passive voice, but you just didn't know what it was. Let me explain a little bit. But before I do that, I just want to say, learning English is a little bit like learning to swim. The most successful people are the ones who've just been pushed into the water and they have to find their way very quickly rather than drown. Whereas if you just walk around the pool carrying a book, then it's going to take much longer and you're still going to have to get into that pool at one point. Right, let's get back to the passive voice then. So, we use the passive voice when we either don't know or don't want to say the subject of the sentence. So if you can imagine, for example, Joseph ate the delicious cake, but let's say that we don't know who ate the cake. You could say, well, someone ate the delicious cake, but we don't know who that someone is. So it would be better to use the passive voice and use the object at the front of the sentence, at the beginning. The cake was eaten. The cake was eaten is a much easier way to say somebody ate my cake and I don't know who it was. If you do know who it was, but you just want to give more emphasis to the cake, you can also use the passive voice construction and add who ate it at the end. Let me just go over that again. So, in the first example that I gave you, Joseph ate the cake. If we don't know who ate it, then we can say the cake was eaten. Okay? But if you just want to talk about the cake, okay, and it doesn't matter who ate it, but you know who ate it, you can also put the name at the end. The cake was eaten by Joseph. So these are two main things about the passive voice, okay? It's there when you don't know who the person is, but it's also there when you want to highlight the object of the sentence. The cake was eaten, Oh my goodness, the cake's been eaten, we'll have to get another one now. Yeah? Whereas if you say, oh, Joseph ate the cake, then the sentence is no longer about the cake, it's about Joseph. So you can see these two ways of using the passive voice really change the sentence. One is talking about something which has been done and we don't know who. The other is clearly where we do know who did it, but we're still highlighting the objects. Okay, and this is really useful in job interviews when you want to talk about the job. The job needs to be done by somebody like me who has a lot of experience. Because if you say, I should get the job because I think I'm the best person, if you compare those two sentences, the second one is all about you, but the first one is about the job. These are two of the most important points in using the passive voice. If you think of sentences like, the train has been cancelled, it's very useful because they don't want to tell us who cancelled the train. Otherwise, we would be very angry at that man every day when he does this. If you're sending an email at work and you tell the people, by the way, I'm putting the servers down for 3 hours today, please make sure you save your work. Of course, everyone's going to hate you. And then they'll meet you in the corridor and they'll say, you put that server down for 3 hours yesterday, and I wanted to finish my work and I couldn't because of you. You see, so if you use the passive voice to say, please note the servers will be closed for 3 hours today, you're not saying who's closing them. It makes it much easier to digest because you're simply passing along information. These are the kind of things that you really need to think about when you're composing emails, because in a company, and especially in a team, you don't want to keep talking about yourself. If your boss says, team, have you all finished your work? If you say to him, I finished my work because I'm the best person to do it. Yes, I did it early and it was finished early. It's a little bit kind of personal, isn't it? So maybe it would be better to say something like, yes, the work has been finished. He can go and look at the log to see who finished the work. In fact, he's the boss. He probably already knows. So it's a way of ensuring that your ego is kept in check. We don't want too much of that in a team. Let's just recap for a moment, okay, to see what we've covered so far. So we started off by talking about an object being at the start of the sentence, perhaps for two reasons, okay? So Joseph ate the cake was the active sentence, yeah, and in the passive, that became the cake was eaten. We know it was eaten by Joseph. We don't have to say he ate it, but now the stress is on the cake, not on Joseph. Joseph ate the cake. Oh, the cake was eaten by Joseph. Then we moved on and we spoke about how this is very important at work because, for example, the trains are cancelled or I'm cancelling the trains are two very different things. Likewise, I'm shutting the server for 3 hours tonight. The servers will be shut for 3 hours tonight. If you compare those two sentences, one is about the person who's doing the shutting, and the other is simply informing you of what will not be available. And that's really it for the passive voice. There's not so much else to say about it, except just a couple more points. So if you think of academia and at college and university, if you say, for example, I took the glass and I mixed the salt in it because I wanted to see the result and the result was, you can see there that the experiment you're doing, if you're writing your thesis, is no longer about the experiment, it's about you. So usually universities encourage people to write in the passive voice, to say things like the glass was filled with water, the salt was added, and the result was. It's a much easier way of talking. It's not actually that hard, the passive voice. Really, it just takes a little bit of practice. And I would encourage you today to move away from the rules and just jump right in. So, final recap for today. We use the passive voice when we don't know who's doing the action. When we know who's doing the action, but we want to highlight the fact that the object is important. The cake was eaten. Okay, not that Joseph ate the cake. Also in work, it's very useful for taking away the ego and also for blame. You know, if someone calls into your office and says, I want to speak to the person who made the mistake, you know, you can say, yeah, I can see a mistake was made and I'll fix that for you now. The same if your boss asks, who did this thing wrong? You can say, oh yeah, I see a mistake was made. I'll fix that now, rather than pointing fingers and blaming people. And the last example I gave there was, of course, at university and academia. The salt was placed in the glass was filled with water, rather than saying, I filled the glass with water and I did this. The same as a job interview. I think I'm the best man for the job can easily be replaced with the job needs someone like me or needs to be finished by a professional with a lot of experience. It's a much nicer way of speaking. We can't always use it, It depends on the circumstances, but in professional life, it's really, really important. All right, there we are. So, see you all again soon. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.